5 years ago, KLM grounded its Boeing 747s, also deciding to park many other jets, a move that led to the permanent retirement of the jumbo. Despite earning a slight comeback in the mid-2020s, the retirement followed a host of other global airlines in doing something very similar. So why were the jets parked and therefore retired? Why did the 747 make a bit of a small return? And what has come since the axing of the quad-engine jumbo? When the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, KLM knew things were going to change, quite likely forever, with landmark decisions needing to be made across the business. The sheer scale of the parking was visible at Amsterdam Airport Schiphol, where more than 200 aircraft were parked at gates, on the runways and on taxiways to accommodate them. These planes were parked according to the airline in a manner in which size and type were organised, making sure as well that enough space was present for them to be towed if they required maintenance, or maybe had to re-enter service. The airline going as far as saying the airport was full, and the impact was felt across the group, with internal early April reporting suggesting that Air France-KLM were losing €25 million per day due to the effects. By the end of March 2020, the same month of the global pandemic really dramatically becoming a reality, KLM made the harsh but necessary decision to park its 747 fleet with certainly the intent of a permanent retirement. The final 747-400 passenger flight therefore operated its final journey, with PH-BFT, a 747-400M, a combi variant, having the honours, remaining part of the airline's unique history with the plane. The combi enables the jet to be a half passenger and half freight jet, which means all kinds of freight can be transported, whether it's small or large, and enables a greater mix of revenue from passenger to cargo. The retirement also aligned with 49 years of operation. KLM had actually planned to pull the plane from service on the half-century celebration, so it wasn't really much of an accelerated retirement in the end, but it certainly did not pan out as intended. However, while passenger flights came to a close with demand dropping, the 747 would stick around in the business a little bit longer. Only moments after retiring the 747s, the jets actually came back into service, albeit on a temporary basis. KLM decided to return the jets temporarily to serve the cargo sector and help with demand across the business, as medical supplies were a huge requirement, and these 747s provided the capacity to make this possible, given they were not being utilised for any other operation. The Dutch government led a lot of the interest in bringing the 747s temporarily from retirement/parking because of the ability to transport these medical supplies. But by mid-2020, after just a handful of months operating these medically driven flights, the airline began to see demand for these types of operations dwindle, and as a result, there was no longer a need to keep the jets in service in any capacity for that matter. And as a result, KLM in October of 2020 confirmed the formal retirement of the 747, not just for its passenger operations, but also for any of these medically run or repatriation flights, ceasing the necessary aid with the Dutch government to help transport goods. The last flight operating from Shanghai to Amsterdam Schiphol. The aircraft was part of a total of 3 which were returned to service as part of those freight operations, or the requirement by the local government to help with the goods. Unfortunately, KLM's decision to retire the 747 followed many other similar moves from global carriers that also relied on the Queen of the Skies for their day-to-day operations. Firstly, the Australian flag carrier decided to axe its 747 fleet after more than half a century with the jet. This was a necessary move to preserve the business and lower costs as well. While Qantas axed the 747 fleet sooner than expected, the 747 was already in the process of being retired. It was removed from service permanently in a similar fashion to KLM around 1 year earlier than expected, whereas closer to KLM, neighbouring British Airways axed its 747 fleet after much deliberation as well, but this was an acceleration of the retirement. In fact, the 747 was meant to stay on for many more years, remembering that BA even painted some of its 747s in iconic liveries a mere 12 months before the emergence of restrictions. These liveries sadly were therefore not seen on scheduled passenger flights for that long, because before the series was axed to streamline and cut relevant costs. Unlike the 3 aforementioned airlines, Lufthansa's last 5 years with the 747 have probably been the most different. A grounding intended to lead towards a permanent retirement to cut costs was dramatically scrapped. Lufthansa was hit with considerable delivery delays, and instead of dealing with consistent capacity losses, it decided decided to return 747s to service while they are still present today, helping to fly across some of the most in-demand routes where next-generation capacity is not available. They are definitely not seen as a medium to long-term solution. Ultimately, moving forward for KLM without the usage of the 747, it was the right decision for them on a financial basis alone, which took a beating during the early stages of the decade. Since the retirement, KLM has moved forward with more efficient twin-engine wide-body jets, including the 787 Dreamliner with 2 variants here in operation. These aircraft are able to operate a host of long-haul missions, and you don't need me to tell you again that they offer greater economics than your outgoing quad-engine jumbo jet, and also come equipped with more of your modern amenities that passengers demand for their services nowadays. Fleet modernization remains an important pillar for the Air France KLM group, and we know the group has already confirmed that Airbus A350s are destined to head to the Dutch carrier in the coming years. This will only further elevate the long-haul division, enable renewal efforts, and obviously greater expansion, really solidifying the transition towards the new gen of aircraft. Keen to hear your take on KLM's story with the 747. Do you have any maybe memorable moments you'd like to discuss down below in the comments? Feel free. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in a couple of days for more industry analysis.
And we'll fly.